I'm contributing this photograph of the Power Rangers to make sure that the future remembers these remarkable heroes.
We sure do, Miss Appleby. We sure do. Welcome, folks, to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, an artist's perspective review. This is the first TV show review on my channel, but my established artist perspective review formula will come back. I'll be talking about the storyline, but also artistic influences, references and ideas from other movies and TV, plus anything else I feel is relevant for my review. Power Rangers is more, dare I say, artistically interesting and with merit in some seasons than in others. So while that is part of today's epic video, I will be talking more about the influences it had from TV and movies before this, as well as what it inspired thereafter in its own franchise and beyond. Power Rangers reflects the decade it was made in, with recent seasons feeling very in the now. However, I'm here to talk today about 90s Power Rangers, as that's the version I grew up with along with 2000s Power Rangers, which are the best. I'm most familiar with those seasons, and I'd love to talk about the impact the show had on me as a fan. This video is coming out in August 2023, the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. Happy 30th birthday, Power Rangers! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Before I continue, feel free to like, share and subscribe to my channel, hitting the notification bell for when my videos go live. To celebrate this franchise, let's start at the beginning. Our story begins not with Hayam Saban, but with the late great Stan Lee. Before Saban adapted a Super Sentai series into Power Rangers, Stan Lee tried to do a similar thing with an earlier Sentai, 1981's Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan. Yes, it is pronounced like that. Stan Lee could not find any investors for the project, and so the idea was put by the wayside. This is despite Toei, the originators of Super Sentai among other products like Voltron, which was brought to America. They already had a tangled web with Marvel, wink wink, having created their own live-action Spider-Man series in 1978. But further into the saga of bringing Sentai to the Western world, Saban Productions, later Saban Entertainment, they were a leader in co-producing kid shows from the 80s to the 2000s. Overseen by Hayam Saban and Shuki Levy, they were responsible for music made for kid shows. For example, He-Man, She-Ra, Inspector Gadget, and The Real Ghostbusters. They're also credited on 1992's X-Men the Animated Series legendary theme, collaborating with longtime star composer Ron Wasserman. Saban products were often more animated than live-action, but MMPR helped them step into that world. In 1984, Hayam Saban was relaxing between business meetings in Tokyo, Japan. Flipping through the channels, Saban saw Sentai's then-current show, 1984's Chodenchi Bioman. Yes, it is pronounced like that. He saw
5 kids in their superhero costumes jumping around and kicking some monster butt.
Yep, that's Power Rangers' epic and well-loved premise. Seeing the potential, Saban tried to adapt what he'd seen and sell it to the Western world, business-wise, and this is why Power Rangers and shows like it have endured, is because a lot of money is saved, as up to roughly 50% of each episode of your proposed show has already been completed. It's just a matter of rescoring, redoing the Foley for and English dubbing the Japanese footage. Also reshooting footage with American actors to create a new show. Making the show on a low budget and with confidence in its success, you can stand to profit healthily in your business.
What a totally genius vision, Mr. Saban!
After cutting together a pilot adaptation of Bioman, and then later another pilot based on Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger that MMPR would source footage from, Saban carried a VHS tape of his work around with him.
So retro.
He began pitching his idea to networks. All of them, apart from Fox Kids, at best thought it was too silly to work, even in adaptation, that or too violent. This is definitely a problem still when MMPR first aired. The action got a lot of parents complaining, even having the show banned in several countries. Anyway, Margaret Loesch, then head of Fox Kids, sought a new product that would be adventurous, fun and silly, and shared the same conviction as Saban that Sentai could be adapted and be successful. This was especially true after Margaret Loesch's child saw the pilot and gave his approval. So indeed, thank you, Margaret Loesch's kid, wherever you're at. Saban's idea was unique at the time, especially compared to other superhero shows like X-Men, but also Batman the Animated Series. Both of those are age-appropriate, but they also have a definite edge and maturity to them too. Think more the 60s Batman, mixed with Voltron and Japanese monster movies, and Power Rangers is the result. With Power Rangers, whatever year it comes out, they tend to use the Sentai from the preceding year. The show started in 1993 and used footage from the last season completed in Japan in 1992. This has mostly been the constant in the making of Power Rangers, but let's talk about the initial season's production. The concepts for MMPR went through a fair bit of refining, the type of show both Saban and Fox wanted, for one thing, but even just the title, Rangers, was always going to be included, inspired by what Sentai often does, but it was originally going to be called Dino Rangers, also Galaxy Rangers at one point. Saban evidently held on to those titles, recycling them later on with Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, and then initially Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Power Rangers has many dinosaur-themed seasons, and corresponding names that have Dino as a prefix in the title. Dino Charge, Dino Fury, etc. But quick committee thinking named the first season. It was just going to be called Power Rangers, which sounds snappy by itself, but they wanted a title with the same number of syllables as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, named by Hayao Saban, came to be.
Yeah, right, and I'm a Ninja Turtle.
It wasn't intentional, but the name Morphin...
That means to change.
Yeah, it sounds like morphine, but that mustn't have occurred to anyone making the show back then, and so it stuck. For the first 3 seasons. On the subject, something I'd love to do for as many Power Rangers seasons as possible is talk about a Power Rangers show, and then compare it with the Sentai show it uses footage from, going back and forth between Japanese and American television, and finding the virtues and vices in each one. That will be the video I do in follow-up to this one. Before getting into the first season, let's talk about the pilot episode, made not for public consumption, although it was eventually shown on TV as part of a behind-the-scenes special. The episode is a rough version of what would be in the actual first episode, so I'm better not talking about how similar these episodes are, but how they differ. Instead of a gym and juice bar, the main social gathering point in the pilot is a bowling alley.
Excuse me! Trying to bowl a strike over here?
Also the cast, their characters are definitely more energetic teens with attitude, other than David Yost, who's nerdier here as Billy, and with different glasses.
How prodigious.
And Austin St. John, who dials it back. Partly as sadly he turns in a bad performance in my books.
Use your crystals to activate the dino power now!
But it's just the pilot. His acting only improved from here in the Power Rangers franchise.
Come on, Ranger!
Anyway, speaking of the cast, the initial call was for a show called Phantoms.
Phantoms? Like the movie with Billy Zane?
Good guess, but wrong.
Which is a weird working title, I'll be completely honest. But the idea of what kind of show the actors would be in came across. They wanted people with a Beverly Hills 90210 look. Gymnastics and or martial arts experience was essential, and they needed to be 18 but play younger. Way to combat those child labor laws, guys. The auditions narrowed down to 2 casts. A tall, model-looking cast, and then the one that Saban wanted, which is the talent we had ultimately. I'll be drawing fleeting comparisons to Saved by the Bell in this review.
Saved by the Beat.
As that show was on its way out by the time Power Rangers came in. Much like 90210 as well, actually. Both of those shows have enjoyed revivals long after the fact, which just goes to show the popularity of them. Also the 30-year cycle of nostalgia, where, after said time frame, things come back into style or relevance, explaining why things are the way they are in Hollywood at the moment, with the 90s becoming cool and profitable again. In the 90s, Power Rangers virtually replaced the popular teen-tween sitcom, which is its own kind of American TV, also bridging the gap between that and the sci-fi anime show Voltron, updating the combiner mecha concept into live action. I don't know if I can call Power Rangers everything the TV show, but it draws on a lot of disparate parts and makes them work. Something I won't talk about, however, is Beverly Hills 90210 in comparison to Power Rangers. Partly as admittedly I've never actually seen it, so what do I know? But also, based on a quick Google search, I feel it's too mature and serious, relatively speaking, to be compared to MMPR. You see? That show goes places Power Rangers dare not go. Unless we're talking about the 2017 reboot film, but even then. Anyway, the cast is the same, with the exception of Trini. Incidentally, you do hear ADR from Twee Trang.
Trini here, ready to rock.
But in the pilot, she is played by Audrey Dubois. She's a tough, high-spirited, tomboy, stand-up-for-herself kind of girl.
All right, dweebs, dance!
I do like her take on Trini. The cast in the show proper is iconic, but it could have been interesting seeing her as Trini in the show. Dubois left the show after the pilot due to a pay dispute, and this issue is why she, along with many Power Rangers actors, left the franchise. With exceptions, but those stories will be told accordingly as needed. Dubois has appeared at Power Morphicon in recent years, receiving recognition for what she did, which is wonderful, although she's never come back to acting in general, it seems, despite still being part of the show's history. Another character played by a different actor is Skull, his actor being a stunt actor, not a character actor, and looks more like a 50s greaser than an 80s punk. Also, Bulk is the sidekick in this version, and looks like a hillbilly Winnie the Pooh or something with his costume. Another budgetary difference is the teleport effect. It's cool, but it looks like a morphing, distorting effect of the actors as they get sucked up out of picture. A better, more creative, if odd choice using reworked Zyuranger opening titles footage is the CG morphing effect of the teens turning into puppet animals, and dinosaurs that go along with their Ranger identities. I love this visual, but it means all the actors change in very unflattering ways into these creatures. The command center is rougher, made on a limited budget. It's very 80s with neon that has a limited green, blue, pink color scheme. Zordon, instead here named Zoltar, which was changed due to copyright, as Zoltar was the name of the wish-granting machine from Big, starring Tom Hanks, which is another Fox product, but whatever. They made the right choice, as Zoltar sounds cool, but I like Zordon more. The Rangers' Zords are derived from their mentor's name, and let's face it, Zolts or Megazolts are lame names. Zordon looks like he's in a lava lamp, but his head and tube are green instead of blue.
Hey! Greenhead!
Alpha looks similar, but his costume is flimsier. I know, budget. The morphers are called transmorphers, and the morphing sequence uses Zyuranger footage with American footage awkwardly overlaid. Plus Rita's telescope vision is different, not that it wouldn't vary this season, however. The putties are designed the same as the Zyuranger foot soldiers, but the actual costumes are different. In adapting Zyuranger, all usable footage was extracted, and a team of writers hired to craft stories, based on a found footage aesthetic. So that was the rough pilot.
So what's next?
Now let's talk about the actual first episode, Day of the Dumpster. The pilot was also called this, but here's the real deal. Starting with the iconic intro, need I say more? It's so 90s, I love it. In TV productions, the intro is done last. Very helpful to the MMPR intro, which uses a lot of American footage from different episodes, plus Zyuranger footage. The intro would change, reflecting story developments, like the introduction of Tommy Oliver, new Zords, and Zord combinations, depending on where we were story-wise, similar to the Sentai. So after 10,000 years of imprisonment in a space dumpster, Rita Repulsa, great alliterative supervillain comic booky name, her and her minions are freed by two unsuspecting astronauts.
Unsuspecting astronauts.
And so now,
Time to conquer Earth!
the command center, or the Brandis-Bardin campus retreat building of the American Jewish University in California, is matted atop Vasquez Rocks.
This show is like so Californian.
The command center is iconic and instantly recognizable. It just goes to show that Marilyn Manson, who filmed his music video for the Dope Show here, well, he knew what he was doing. Take something you know, look at it differently, question it.
So that you're not always taking things for granted.
All right, noble.
But anyway, Zordon, portrayed by David Fielding, he is privy to Rita's escape and instructs his robot best friend Alpha to
recruit a team of teenagers with attitude
to combat the villains, in the form of Jason Scott, Zachary Zach Taylor, Billy Cranston, Kimberly Hart, and Trini Kwan. The teleportation effect of the teens arriving in the command center is from the first episode, and is very specific to this show, very analog, optical, and pre-digital, which is part of the show's charm. Cheaper, certainly, but it goes along well enough with the special effects in the Sentai footage to make it feel uniform. There are digital effects this season, but they're few and far between. This isn't the first Power Rangers movie after all. Or even the reboot movie. With Zack's Power Morpher, the shine of the coin and the quality of it shows they used the toy versions at the time. Interestingly, it looks like what Hasbro, who owns Power Rangers now, it looks like the toys that they make, as opposed to the legacy toys that more closely resemble the Zyuranger footage. For the US adaptation, the morphers say Power Rangers, whereas the Sentai version reads Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. In fact, if you look closely, you can see the Rangers' weapons say Zyuranger. This is a quirk of the process of adapting Japanese television for the Western world, by making said Japanese show not look Japanese. A behind-the-scenes mandate that had to be followed. That goal was often reached, but there are exceptions. The hell is he doing there? The effect of Jason morphing is iconic, even if it kind of looks like a cardboard cutout appears on top of him. It's a Photoshop After Effects job with the suit against green screen, but again it's charming. Given time, budget, and the standards of 90s television. Here's a seizure-inducing moment. Sorry, wrong clip, but you get the idea. We see bits of the Power Rangers logo form as flashing cards for 2 frames. As the Megazord forms, the MMPR logo appears as lightning strikes and the chorus plays. Great colours, pure hues of primary and secondary colours, with a little bit of pastel colour too. The black background helps them all stand out more. I love how the Power Rangers text has fire internally before turning green. The O in power has a lightning bolt, like a major part of the logo has, which makes it look like a power coin. Roll call credits. American footage on the left with a freeze frame of our characters. How 80s. I know this was filmed in 1992, but still. Clips with the Rangers and their weapons appear on the right, each clip split by a central vertical line, very anime, the line's colour going along with each Ranger's colour too. We see the morphers with the cast members inside, holding their morpher props aloft, with Ron Wasserman's Go-Go Power Rangers theme amazing. Let's talk about the theme song. Ron Wasserman,
which means waterman in German.
He created this masterpiece in one 2.5-hour session, as sometimes that's just how artists work. Even though this is a kid show, he wrote the theme to appeal to adults, which shows great musical vision. He had free rein on the song, the only suggestion being to use the word go, as Saban had previously had success with that, with Go Gadget Go, the Inspector Gadget theme. Wasserman had influences from Black Sabbath to Iron Maiden, but also Van Halen, which features strongly here. He even sang on it, having never sung on anything before recorded to tape. It's important to note that while we hear guitars, they were all created on a synthesizer with guitar sounds Ron had developed, as he does not play guitar himself, rather the piano and keyboard. It's a near-perfect effect in the opening theme. The closing theme has a note progression that one can imagine being played on a keyboard, but otherwise perfect. Previously, Wasserman had only sung on demos as guides for the actual singer.
So my high harmony is, if you listen, it's really flat.
Even still, Fox and Saban heard it, loved it, and Ron became the singer. We see a sunbeam of sorts coming from the morphers, and a solid background of buzzing electricity, color-coded to match each character. The morphers are a little transparent due to how they're optically incorporated into the shots, the way the light comes from them, but they look cool. The rule of cool conquers all, especially in the 90s. We see the Zords flash by, then a freeze-frame group shot of the team with their power coins taken from the Sentai. Major stars of the franchise, Farkas Bulkmeyer and Eugene Skullovich are credited.
Very German sounding names, or Southern European.
or Jewish, at least.
This beloved duo is played by Paul Schreier and Jason Narvey, respectively. Their clip with them waving their candy floss. I say candy floss, not cotton candy, as I'm from the UK. Go figure. Bulk and Skull's nicknames comment on their body types. Bulk is big and bulky, Skull is skinny and bony. Gotcha. Here's a bizarre early memory. Bulk and Skull's candy floss, I always thought they were waving raw chickens, which doesn't work as chicken doesn't break apart like that, raw or otherwise. But, you know, they're bullies and anarchists, it's in their nature to do that. But I think I only interpreted this that way, as it flashes by really quickly. Plus I was watching it on VHS, yes, I am that old, so it was harder to see what was really there sometimes. Some awesome footage of the Megazord formation, title card, and boom. Intro is exactly 1 minute. How economic. I wish my videos could be like that. So 2 astronauts travel to the moon. Supposedly, as last I looked, the moon wasn't red. Unless I was reading the Book of Revelation. Plus we see both the Earth and the moon when they land within this planet's orbit. So something's clearly wrong here. These 2 clearly not Japanese astronauts, we get but brief glimpses of their faces, come across a space dumpster in the sand. Again, this is meant to be the moon, having followed a shining light. The jewel atop the lid of the dumpster reflected on the horizon. Yeah, the physics of this place makes no sense. But it's Power Rangers, a franchise where the moon can do, and in fact is like, all the things I just described. The astronauts open up the space garbage can, releasing Rita Repulsa and her minions, her gorilla dog in shining armor named Goldar, the bumbling comedic relief duo of Squat and Babu, who I always thought looked like alien versions of Bulk and Skull, and her monster maker Finster, a sensitive artist type.
I'm a sensitive artist!
The exploded dumpster is iconic, kind of looks like one of Saturn's rings, also like the ring on her magic wand staff that she used to blast the dumpster.
You'll miss my coming out party!
Go, Rita!
That's when I destroy the nearest planet!
No, Rita. Well, our main conflict is established. How will we follow up on this dramatic moment?
Angel Grove Radio.
Relief, 90s style. The Angel Grove Youth Center. I love the sign for this place, by the way, reminds me of the show's logo, but less bombastic. The colours are softer, more pastel. Nice yellow smoothie with the blue bottom of the glass. The green banner with the yellow text and the red for contrast is great. The background recalls a sunset on the water, minus the colour. I like the Angel Grove High School logo too, with the subdued colours, the iconic circular pastel green, yellow and white with a bit of blue. It's done on a budget, but cool. Among the folks working out in their 80s neon aerobics outfits, and those in karate uniforms, we're introduced to our main characters. Before we meet them, I'll say that Hayam Saban wanted a multi-ethnic cast of best friends that work together, very Gene Roddenberry. Therefore, kids can see themselves in the characters and relate to them. This is still relevant today in Power Rangers, though the Sentai, as ever, had an all-Japanese cast, and diversity wasn't an issue. In translating the Sentai to appeal to the diversity of the Western world, however, the characters were all different races. The correct choice to make, but they found they'd made an honest, if racially insensitive, mistake in casting ultimately, which went unnoticed into way into production, sadly. That being that Walter Jones, who played Zack,
the Black Ranger,
is African-American, and Thuy Trang, who played Trini,
the Yellow Ranger,
is Asian, specifically Vietnamese. I know the producers saw the casting of Trang as a tie-back to the Sentai they were adapting, but again, that cast was all Japanese and Trang is Vietnamese. So again, perfectly well-intentioned, but those good intentions fall flat. Audrey Dubois, who played Pilot Trini, is not Asian, and I think having the cast like this better fills the diversity quota, despite the Rangers' races and their corresponding suit colours. With that said, when you're a child watching this show, I'll speak for myself, I didn't notice or think about any of that. You don't know what race, much less what racism is, or even what stereotypes are. You just see the characters for who they are as people, as intended. So there's enough community love here, as Walter Jones would say.
Community love.
To make it work. Casting choices for the Rangers were handled better in subsequent seasons after the mistakes made here, by and large. But the commendable thing, pop culturally in Season 1, is that these beloved superheroes were identified with by generations of people. How touching for the actors playing these characters. We're introduced to Kimberly doing her gymnastics. Oh, Kim's so gorgeous. Hey! I'm not the first to say that. Amy Jo Johnson, I had the biggest crush on you as a kid. In fact, I still do. Anyway, the characters begin with superficial traits, discernible personalities, and things to bring to the group, and their arc as a team is discernible, although they don't have much in terms of individual character arcs, despite lessons of the day being learnt and obstacles overcome. Kim is a stereotypical California Valley girl, or Val gal, a gymnast who enjoys the mall and hanging out with her best friend Trini. If Kim frequently chewed gum and had an open-mouthed expression, her character would be too airheaded and insufferable, at least in concept.
Excuse me, but will somebody come back to Earth and pick me up, because I am totally confused.
But she, along with the rest of the team, still have a charm and likability.
No way. Really?
Amy Jo pulls off her California accent really well, despite being from Massachusetts, so occasionally those East Coast vowels come through.
So what did you want to talk to me about? Thanks for reminding me about my poodle. And he is definitely out to get us.
Whoa, Kim, are you Canadian?
She does have enough Valley Girl lines to sell that she's Californian, though.
Someday soon, this plastic is gonna make, a lot of credit cards. The only thing I can balance is shopping bags. Watch the do, okay? Busted! I just want a salad. Party crashers, totally annoy me! There's no reason to spoil a perfectly good hair day. Whoa, that was really strange. I thought I was gonna end up in the mall as a mannequin.
Another one whose East Coast accent comes out a lot is Austin St. John.
He's coming at us! It's Morphin time! It's all over for you, pal!
This makes sense, as he's from
back east somewhere.
Never mind, I can buy it. People migrate. David Yost has it down as he's lived in Arizona. Thuy Trang lived most of her life in California, I believe. And Walter Jones is from Detroit. But most of them pull off the West Coast accent pretty well. Jason and Zach are often buddied together, training and hanging out as friends. As far as clothing goes, the teens always wear their respective Ranger colors. Jason's red bandana is very Rambo, also his vest, and on other occasions, a red button-up shirt and a maroon jean jacket. Even, comedically, a Where's Wally vest. Zach wears black, but often purple too. The color purple and Zach go hand in hand, especially as a Ranger, as the power, for lack of a better term, that exudes from him is often colored purple rather than black, which is a good choice, as otherwise it would look too dull, too dark against his Ranger counterparts. Other times, Zach's clothes had a mixture of orange, yellow, purple and pink, often stripy, and very 80s too. That, or this homogenized Rasta, Jamaican, Afro-Caribbean style clothes and colors even. Talk about cultural stereotyping and creative liberties taken, feeds into cliches. Zach's hair reminds me of Vince from Recess. Also, they're both athletic. How super.
What?
I mean, how 90s. Trini flies solo, very focused but chilled too. She's a skilled gymnast. Thuy Trang is no longer with us, sadly, and it's the biggest shame ever. She tragically lost her life in a car accident in 2001. 8 years after MMPR premiered and 7 years after she'd left the show. An episode of Power Rangers Time Force is dedicated to her memory, as is the special Netflix episode, Power Rangers Once and Always. Thuy was such a talented actress, a sweet, kind-hearted person too. So much potential. She was, and still is, missed by many. Trini sometimes wore braces on her hipster jeans, very 80s. Yellow tartan. In fact, a number of styles and outfits, like a cowgirl waistcoat, a flat cap like a Bratz doll, very chic, even like a hippie with her stripy top and crystal necklace. How 60s in this 90s show. And she even wears yellow to bed, like how Kim wears pink. Kim often wears a flowery gym suit, very 90s. A tartan hoodie tied in the middle, flower earrings, baby pink Doc Martens and flowery dress. Aww. She sometimes looks very 80s with her spotty purple dress and shocking pink, sometimes looking like a brunette Barbie doll.
So much pink.
Other times like a soccer mom complete with jeans. Ooh, she even has a JanSport bag. Product placement. The blue, purple and cream in Billy's shirt is very 80s in one episode, though often Billy wore plain blue and looked kind of like Chucky from Child's Play with his signature dungarees. The bane of his existence. Very kiddie, and again very 80s.
Hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play?
They do look cool and iconic, though.
Yes, like one of Alvin and the Chipmunks.
maybe.
David Yost is an accomplished martial artist, and it's a testament to his acting, as he often had to pretend to not be that adept at fighting to play his character initially. His blue bandana and glasses remind me of both Leonardo and Donatello from TMNT. He's got Donatello's personality and nerdiness.
I'm president of the Science Fair Committee.
But the blue makes me think of Leonardo, the leader. Fun fact, David Yost originally auditioned for Jason, but didn't feel that authority in him as a person, and so went for Billy and got the role. His role, like the others, is iconic and special, although 30 years later, he did get to lead the team in Once and Always, so what went around came around. It's especially great to see him treasured like this years later, because David Yost is gay and was unfairly harassed to no end over this by people behind camera, taking a toll on his mental health, and ultimately leading to him walking off set one day during Power Rangers Zeo. This sad, disappointing fact speaks to the treatment of LGBTQIA+ people in the 90s, how society has become more inclusive ever since, and my heart sinks knowing that he suffered this way. But Yost did also feel like a kid's TV role model, a beloved superhero. The cast brought their athleticism into their auditions, tying back into the Sentai footage, but also to create these idealized, sporty, fit, kind and loyal teenagers who do their homework and succeed at everything. How relatable. Even so, the teens with attitude, platitude does occasionally come through.
Hey, dirtbag!
You're yesterday's news.
You mean like the alphabet?
Don't you feel a little out of place here? After all, an IQ is required.
Does she even know you're alive?
And I love it. Billy is full of technobabble, whom Trini translates for the other characters' benefit.
Translation, please.
David Yost often struggled with his dialogue, trying to simplify it down wherever he could.
A fully sentient, multifunctional automaton.
I do give credit to the writers writing lines with an ambitious vocabulary, though. It's funny in hindsight that Kimberly, being a girl, is the Pink Ranger, and Billy, a boy, is the Blue Ranger. Talk about gender stereotyping. Seriously though, that's not the issue, but it doesn't take away from superficial characterization. They're a girl, so they wear pink. They're a boy, so they wear blue. Okay, we just need more going on with them as people. Some of the cast were innately better actors than others. Amy Jo is the best, lots of subtleties in her performance, even practicing Stanislavskian and method techniques for the show. You might think, oh, that's unnecessary, but as an actor you need to start somewhere. Yost, Trang and Jones are about even, but Austin St. John is the weakest, initially.
We have to try. There's gotta be a way to stop that thing.
What's wrong with you? I know.
Alpha, Zordon, Rita and her minions, their actors all turned in great performances. It's just the characters as written that needs work. Better writing and good talent always makes for good, long-running TV, as it gives the actors a chance to hone their craft. It boils down to standards of writing in children's media, or just popular media at times in the 90s lacking actual characterization here and there. Writing for kids' media has improved over time, I'd like to think, although with Power Rangers it depends on which season we're talking about. Some of the actors were more martial artists or gymnasts, the girls being more the latter, and the boys the former. Although Walter Jones combined martial arts and dance, what Zach calls hip-hop Kido.
The dancer wants to be a fighter. Carnival geek.
Is hip-hop Kido a silly idea? Yes. Is it awesome, though? Absolutely. The legendary Bulk and Skull. They're stereotypical bullies, but Paul Schreier and Jason Narvi elevate their roles with their performances. They're very Laurel and Hardy, their physiques even matching that beloved duo. And there's also shades of the Three Stooges, even the Marx Brothers too, with their comedy. Specifically when they interact with Principal Kaplan, whose toupee gets knocked off. That's a gag directly out of a Marx Brothers movie.
Mr. Kaplan is gonna flip his wig again.
Not so fast!
Their slapstick being influenced by silent comedies of previous decades goes along with my ideas about the 30-year cycle of nostalgia, relevance, and pop culture significance. In the 90s, the 60s came back. All those comedy acts would have been on their way out by that time, but they maintained popularity and influence as classics. The theme music and sound effects for Bulk and Skull reflect them perfectly, big and bumbling and high-pitched and annoying, lovably so. The score is mostly rock-driven, Wasserman's hard and fast rule for Power Rangers, but Bulk and Skull brought some levity. Without getting ahead of myself, Bulk and Skull have an arc over the course of the first 6 seasons of Power Rangers. This first season doesn't work towards their redemption of being bullies to becoming good-natured bumblers as much, but rest assured, that's where they end up. Bulk and Skull's wardrobe had a punk rock military style with some color changes.
Just add a little touch of the 90s.
Bulk wears a black beret. Who is he, Picasso? Also leather without a shirt underneath one time. Who is he, Jim Jeffries? He even looks like Donatello from Michael Bay's TMNT with a purple bandana, complete with gym jacket.
Such a metrosexual.
A vest over leather that was like a sunset at the beach, also with psychedelic colours.
How very 60s.
Bulk often wears a green jacket with a red B on the pocket. Good contrast. My favourite, though, is this weird leather headgear that I've only seen in this show, plus the movie, as he wears a variant of it in the film. Very 90s, and fit for a motorcyclist. And a denim jacket. Skull often wears yellow Doc Martens, Sid Vicious style, and grayscale camouflage jeans, dirty pink shirt, chain necklace and red necktie, sunshades, dangly earring.
Dangly ones.
As he would often do, and a grey military jacket. Congrats, Skull, you look like a Nazi. Oops.
A confused Nazi, at best.
At least he salutes the American way. Skull sometimes wore a skull vest, cool and apt, and his hair sometimes looked like Egon from Ghostbusters 2, other times like a greaser. Weirdly, he looked like a Gordon Highlander with his green beret, and his red beret with a question mark badge made him look like a Pokemon trainer. In fact, Bulk sometimes looked like a Pokemon trainer as well. When he wore his bandana, Skull also sometimes wore a wrestling belt and a green jacket. Bulk's long hair was often tied back in a ponytail, iconic, and in episode 1 he had loose-fitting clothes, hard, brown leather boots, again with kind of a Doc Marten style, leather jacket, jean jacket on top, white military belt, and a tie-dye shirt. As a long-haired dude myself, no, I've no desire to tie my hair back like Bulk. Paul Schrier's amazing, I just don't want to look like him. Although nice mustache dude. Skull's shtick was to hit on Kim.
Ugh, don't even mention such a horror.
While Bulk often hit on Trini. Gross, pathetic and desperate, and the girls are always unimpressed by this. Boys, here's an example of what not to do. Often when the bullies didn't get what they wanted, they'd turn on the teens and then slapstick hilarity would ensue. Nice and cathartic. Schreier and Narvi figured out their slapstick for each episode, taking their comedy seriously. And as well they should, it turns in good performances.
It's funny though.
One of their stunts involved a glass sign at the juice bar. Bulk and Skull collide with it and break it, which I'm sure wasn't deliberate. I hope behind the scenes they didn't hurt themselves. Health and safety wasn't as big a deal back then. It's just 30 years later standards have shifted. Another of Skull's tropes is repeating what Bulk says to sound tough.
Oh, I want my mommy. Yeah, I want your mommy.
Talk about Freudian. Skull, I diagnose you codependent with Bulk. I mean, you're so dumb you can't think for yourself. Grow up, dimwit. Anyway, they're both dumb, but Bulk has a little more smarts as the leader of the two. Zack often stands up to the bullies as he is the Black Power Ranger. I'm sorry, I'm trying to turn a perceived negative into a positive. Trini also combats the bullies, tossing them away as she is the yellow... Okay, cut that right there. Let's move on. There's a shutter transition from the juice bar to the moon, almost like a Venetian blind. Very chic. There's lots of inventive transitions in this show, from shutter transitions to variously pixelated ones, also various anime-style transitions, ripple effects, page-turn transitions, fade, circle transitions, wipes, open-close jaws transitions, ones with hard lines, melting transitions, ones with horizontal or vertical bars, spinning stars, image flips, ones that use triangles and diagonals, warps, splits from the middle, wavy transitions, and organic cracks in the earth transition, TV noise transitions, etc, etc, etc. Even a Goosebump-style transition with dripping liquid.
Very 90s. Goes to show the complicated editing of the show, taking full advantage of the footage they had and manipulating it. Especially the Senai.
In dubbing the villains, everyone works well other than Rita. Barbara Goodson, who voices Rita in her best Wicked Witch of the West impersonation. I'm not kidding, that was what was asked of her in playing Rita. It's iconic, although the Sentai actress performance and Goodson's voiceover don't always sync up.
Just like a poorly dubbed Godzilla movie.
Speaking of voices, Goldar sounds different depending on the episode.
You and your weapons are no match for me!
Prepare to feel the wrath of Rita Repulsa!
I'll get you for this, Power Rangers! Hands on it!
I'm talking about you nitwit!
It's like he's going through puberty or something, but the character remains intact regardless of how gruff he sounds. Bulk and Skull want to be taught how to beat people up by Jason. Little do they know that martial arts is not for that, rather for self-defense. Talk about dumb insolence, selfishness, and a lack of respect. The juice bar wants to have kind of a 60s diner chill vibe, but the colours and designs make it feel 90s, which is still cool. Ernie, owner of the gym and juice bar and played by the late great Richard Gianelli, serves the teens some spinach juice. Gross. But then it's an earthquake. How very Californian. Help, evacuate. According to director Terrence Terry Winkless, in directing the show based on stock footage, close collaboration with editors and writers was crucial in creating a new way of making a TV show, which continues in Power Rangers now, filming and intercutting different footage together.
So that you had a sort of tapestry.
There's so many complicated edits and tie-ins from newly shot American footage back into the Japanese clips. Also stock footage that Saban was able to use in depicting Angel Grove, cityscapes, park areas, even just the exterior of the high school and juice bar, all the things you need for formulaic, serialized storytelling. Rural and coastal locations are harder to adapt from Japan to California, but this was the prototype for what Power Rangers would become, and the production value only went up from here. We meet our wise leader Zordon and his robot associate Alpha 5. I wonder what happened to Alphas 1 through 4. Alpha's suit is impressive. A bronze dome, flying saucer head, lights in place of eyes to indicate speech, elbow and shoulder pads, very 90s skater boy almost.
Whoa!
Red armor and electronics to make it light up, a yellow lightning bolt on his chest, like the logo of the show, 2 push buttons, limbs that look like they're covered in vacuum cleaner piping, purple panels on the arms and legs, black gloves with red and bronze again, a black clothy neck piece between the body and the mask, and big comedic metal shoes. Also, his red underwear on the outside is very Superman-like. We'll later learn that Alpha was built on an alien world, just like Zordon had a physical body in his past existence battling Rita, and that Zordon is an alien too, so couldn't Alpha have come from Krypton? I wonder if Saban took influence from Bioman in making MMPR, as in that Sentai the Rangers had a robot associate, akin to C-3PO from Star Wars in its look. That idea must have carried over into Power Rangers, despite there being no equivalent Jew-Ranger character for Alpha, so he's an original invention for this show. Alpha's silly and lovably goofy, despite his frequent outbursts of I. Charming, but please Alpha, restrain yourself now and again.
It's the big one, we'll all be destroyed.
Okay, forget I asked. Zordon knows Rita is back, and so it's time.
Teleport to us 5 overbearing and over-emotional humans.
It's great to show contempt for your 5 warriors in the fight against evil, but Zordon's heart's in the right place. Alpha, however, finds this choice decidedly dubious, but goes along with it. Let's talk about the command center, an amazing, iconic feat of production design.
Isn't exactly the mall, is it?
The viewing globe looks great, a giant glass orb that can play images in the curvature of its own space. It sits atop a glowing platform, and looks like it has wooden coffee tables fitted around it in various sizes, also with wooden bed legs, kind of, for the sake of design, but to support the ball as well. I love the spinning emergency lights made of transparent red and yellow plastic. The walls look like a sky full of stars, made with long lines of big bulbed Christmas lights. The lighting creates lots of reflected lights on the surfaces, especially on Alpha, and the control panels follow the circular design of the room. I'm not actually sure what the American Jewish University looks like inside, but I hope it looks like the inside of the command center, basically. Flashing lights like giant snowflakes are on the control panels, and the tech is very futuristic, which of course means it looks rather dated now. But that's why it's so charming to me. We see what looks like SCART sockets, coloured buttons, toggle switches, very retro. I think the control panels are built of wood and plastic, etc. They're not metal, I can tell. The wall behind Zordon.
Like, what are you?
A giant floating head in a tube.
Ew!
It kind of looks like a sunset, lots of subdued purple, red and yellow. The towers are metallic bronze with flashing lights, like Saturn's rings. Very, very 90s. The effect of Zordon's head in the tube and the animation for it is stock footage of David Fielding slowed down and with blurring, ghosting effects. Also a further wavy effect too, like water on a lake, to make him seem otherworldly, between this dimension and another, aiding in the in-story reason for why Zordon looks like this. Zordon has different facial expressions, but they're often fixed other than when he's laughing. He looks funny when animated, and I always enjoyed it when that happened. Or with him looking thoughtful and or serious with a reasonably fixed expression. There's a perpetually spinning metal sculpture that's very 90s. Reminds me of a spinning galaxy. This prop is very familiar to me from childhood. The juice bar has these bronze metal bars and handrails, with some wavy, decorative parts, recalling the bronze stuff in the command center, good recurring color coding, and in both cases I think it's inspired by Rita's palace. Our 5 20-something-year-old teenagers are teleported away.
That looks so 90s.
Yeah, it's like we were in a virtual reality flying simulator or something. Gen Z, look that one up.
I am Zordon, an interdimensional being caught in a time warp.
Let's do time warp again.
They explain that they must stop Rita
and all her menacing monsters,
using giant robots called Zords against her monsters. Jason will command the T-Rex. Zach, or Zachary as Zordon likes to refer to people by full name, well-spoken guy that he is, Zach will command the Mastodon, or the Woolly Mammoth. I think this show taught me that name. Kimberly will command the Pterodactyl, Billy the Triceratops, and Trini the saber-toothed tiger. It's funny how Zordon calls them all dinosaurs. The T-Rex and the Triceratops are, but the Mastodon and the saber-toothed tiger are not.
They're mammals.
While the pterodactyl, closer to the dinosaurs, again is not one either.
It's specifically a winged prehistoric reptile. A pterosaur. Completely different species.
Zordon kind of gives the teens their own personalities, like the way he sees them rather than what they are. At least not yet, though it's implied that Zordon can predict the future. At least in part. We'll come back to that.
Jason, bold and powerful. Zachary, clever and brave. Kimberly, graceful and smart. Billy, patient and wise. Trini, fearless and agile.
Admirable traits, but show don't tell. Television filmmaking 101 after all. Something I discovered about Walter Jones much later is that he is missing a finger, his left middle finger, in an accident when he was 4 years old, I believe. Pretty crazy stuff. They often succeeded at hiding this fact, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I promise I'll be here for the rest of the competition, okay?
Anyway, most of the teens aren't sold on what Zordon is pitching to them, and leave. Billy is interested in the command center tech, but is pulled away by the crowd.
Peer pressure.
Jason is sold, saying they should do it, but Zordon, knowing they need to make the choice for themselves, lets them go. I relish the scene at the American Jewish University. It's nice that they were able to film on site, rather than always superimpose a photo of the building on top of Vasquez rocks, which we also see here. Nice wall wobbling mat shot. We don't see it in later episodes, so just seeing them walk out of the building is cool. Also that they filmed at Vasquez Rocks for one scene. The setting of various sci-fi shows and movies, like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Star Trek, and Jingle All the Way, which itself is a Power Rangers reference. I think Saban looked at Rita's palace in the Sentai footage and decided to have the Rangers HQ be similar. Rita's palace has electronic lights, like the topper, let's call it, atop the tower, plus the orb with the glowing lights in rings inside on the upper level. The palace and the command center are both in desolate settings, the moon and the desert on Earth. I won't be talking as much about Rita's base here. It's part of MMPR, like all the Zyuranger footage that we see is, but this review will see me talk more about the American shot side of Power Rangers, and then in the Sentai review I can delve into that side of things and compare them. The Monster-Matic has a steam engine noise for when they're ready. Very Thomas the Tank kind of. Not the sound, just the idea. For the foot soldiers of the season, putty patrollers, or rather they're often just called putties, to be made. Rita's monsters are often made from clay, though sometimes monsters appear to be recruited rather than created, which varies things up. The Rangers' morphers' buckles on their belts look like bum bags. Huh? You know, money belts.
Huh?
You know, fanny packs to my American brethren.
Oh, I get it now.
Ooh,
how 90s.
Rita is privy to the Rangers' opposition.
A bunch of purple-faced nitwits!
Haha, nice comedy concept. The old person frustrated by young people. She blasts them from space and sends down a squad of putties to combat them. The American footage of the putties matches the Sentai, as they reuse the costumes, although in Zyuranger they always wore belts. In MMPR they wear belts sometimes, but not all the time.
Continuity error.
The putties nearly beat them, but the teens morph. Then we're in business. Overjoyed, Alpha and Zordon teleport them to Angel Grove to battle more putties and Goldar. I love all the Foley, ADR, and music in this show. It's cool how they were able to take this footage, blank most of the audio, and replace it to create their own iconic results. I enjoy Zyuranger a lot, but taking an already great show, reworking it and creating another great show is an achievement. Rita's
Magic wand! Big Mike!
Insert name here.
Mine's out of the gutter. You know who you are.
I think they asked Toei to shoot more coverage of this so they could reuse it as placeholder footage. Due 1.5, if you will. It's a wonder Rita's staff doesn't burn up in the atmosphere as it's thrown from the moon to the Earth. Also, how does she get it back after every time that she does this? Is it like Thor's hammer or something?
Don't question it.
You're so right.
Anyway, having seen that their giant robot animals can merge into a giant robot person, that's what they do. This is a holdover from Voltron, which had giant robot lions that combine, though I find Zyuranger's robot more interesting as it includes all different species, not just one. Their assembly is iconic. Ooh, AOL.com era reference, very 90s. The dubbed-in voices help guide you through what's happening, especially if you're new to this sort of thing.
2, 1, power up!
Iconic line.
Alright, Rangers, power up! Tyrannosaurus power! Log on! Back here, let's get cooking! In the groove and on the move! Mastodon, time to kick it!
Saber-tooth tiger, ready! Trini, on system scout, ready to rock!
Triceratops, powered up! This is Billy, I'm nominal!
What does that even mean? It sounds like he's going to be sick.
Triceratops, online!
Billy sounds like a cowboy here for some reason.
Alright, let's get it together. I just love this part.
We all do, Kim. We all do.
Pterodactyl, powered up!
A favourite, though, is the monster-themed puns before the fight starts, usually said by Kimberly.
Probably want a Megazord?
I love that line.
Let's jinx this Sphinx! Frankie, you're finished!
Footage of the Megazord formation is reused almost episodically, and this becomes more evident later on when toy commercial footage was variously used instead of the Sentai shots, likely as the Zyuranger footage was deteriorating. It did look visibly discoloured by the end, which is what happens when VHSs of the footage are copied and spliced in. Not something that's a problem now, but you know, it was the 90s, man. This sequence is especially where you notice the difference in footage qualities, from the Sentai to the US footage. Power Rangers was shot on video, while the Sentai was recorded on celluloid since the 70s, making it look like a movie despite the 4:3 aspect ratio. There's a pronounced film grain, which there kind of always is in the Sentai, but you see it here in particular. It makes the footage look older than the 90s, but it's just the format being used. That's iconic, to the rhythm of the hands moving into place, especially tailed by. The Megazord indeed has kind of an Optimus Prime face. The covered mouth especially, mixed with the devil horns. I mean, look at that dude. But anyway, no, the Megazord is not the devil. He doesn't even look like that. So, moving on. Power Sword! The Rangers fight Goldar, and the result is a draw. Cue the iconic low-angle shot of the victorious Megazord to cap the fight scene. Perfect. I love the running gag of Rita being defeated and complaining of a headache, usually blaming her minions for her own failure. What a crock. Don't induce anxiety in them, even if they suck. The Rangers celebrate their victory, Zordon outlining
3 basic rules
for them to follow.
Never use your power for personal gain. Never escalate a battle unless Rita forces you. And finally, keep your identity secret.
The first one is a constant in the superhero genre, especially when it comes to lessons of the day in kid shows. If you have the power, don't squander it. Be a good citizen, do the right thing, and be responsible. Because, folks,
with great power comes great responsibility.
Thank you, Uncle Ben. The second is good advice and makes for drama later on. And the third is pretty standard fare for the superhero genre, having a secret identity. All the major superheroes do this. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, etc. The teens have brushes with people who wonder what certain things are, like their communicators invented by Billy.
New watch.
Or like when Jason evacuates the fun fair via megaphone. Why? What authority does he have? He's a Power Ranger. Jason nearly busts their identities with his word choice in front of Bulk and Skull. Plus kids whom they know and rescue could potentially find out who they are as well.
Wow, the Power Rangers! Wow, the Power Rangers!
Great job, Kelly. You knew you could do it.
How does the Red Ranger know who Kelly is? Anyway, as a side note, they love to drink in their fame. Secretly. Like when the TV covers their successes.
Rita Repulsa and her seemingly endless hordes of monstrous thugs.
Great acting from the Rangers trying to keep their identity secret and just drinking in the attention.
Who are the mighty Morphin Power Rangers? And how do they get their incredible power?
The amazing Power Rangers have saved our fair city from one of Rita Repulsa's lethal monsters. After a lengthy battle, the Power Rangers were able to defeat the beast. Thank you, Power Rangers, whoever you are. And on the local front, those amazing heroes, the Power Rangers.
But don't let it go to your heads, Rangers. That's vanity. Everyone is in after Zordon's speech. He is a good motivational speaker. Everyone other than Kimberly.
I don't know, you guys. I mean, the outfits are cool and everything, but my hair gets all tangled up inside the helmets. I don't think I can do it.
Turns out, she was just kidding.
Not!
Very 90s.
You think that's 90s? You should hear what she said to Cap the pilot.
Psych!
Everyone reaches their hands in. Ooh, Kim's got pretty pink nails. And throws their hands into the air. The freeze frame on the group shot is very 80s. Remember this end shot for a future episode. The end title credits the series producers. Thanks Chaim Saban and Shuki Levy. The end credits, at least initially, are a mixture of Jew Ranger shots and clips from the American footage quickly cut in. The old 90s Power Rangers Saban logo is iconic at the end. I have so many memories for every inch of this show. I had to source this clip from my old DVD copies rather than my new ones that this review uses footage from, as, much like on Power Rangers' YouTube channel, it has the new Saban Brands logo. Lame. Well, not lame, it's cool, but I have nostalgia for the old logo.